Hi there, this is Keith from Your Success, and thank you so much for joining me today as we go through this short course on getting past imposter syndrome. So I was going to explain a little bit about what we're going to look at today and the whys and the wherefores as we go through the first couple of moments here, just to make sure completely understand why it's here, what's going on, and why now we're choosing to talk about this particular topic. So imposter syndrome, how does it work? Well, it's a self-fulfilling pattern of thought in which you consider yourself to be a fraud. Okay. What can go hand in hand with this is you doubt your own intelligence, the talents that you have, the qualifications that you've got, and you think that anyone who believes otherwise is only just kind of being nice to you, or you've fooled them in some way. Okay. Now, as you'll find out, this couldn't be further from the truth, but it's a feeling we start to develop, which becomes a habit, which becomes a belief. Okay. Now, imposter syndrome is an anxiety and overwhelm that you don't deserve your success, or you convince yourself you're not good enough, you're not as intelligent or as talented as you may seem. And what can go hand in hand with that is you even start to think about the achievements are down to luck or good timing. And as we go through here, we'll see some of the bits that kind of add to this, but importantly, how you can move away from these feelings to be able to move forwards and have the full confidence that you deserve in yourself, your abilities, and your talents more than anything else. Now, what can happen with imposter syndrome? And this is some of the important bits. It can kind of strike at moments of success. So just when you should be feeling good and really positive about things, this feeling, this uncertainty can kick in. So when you're starting a new role, when you've just gained a new award or a qualification, there is a chance you suddenly start to think, well, do I deserve this? Have I worked for it? Am I good enough? And as a personal trainer, you might find that you question your ability and you even ask yourself, what gives me the right to advise others? And as you're doing that, you suddenly start to develop this fear that one day you're going to be exposed to fraud and you shouldn't be doing this and so on. But it's really important to recognize that imposter syndrome can be linked to other areas of self-doubt, such as a fear of success, fear of failure, or even a self-sabotage, just through confidence issues. You want to move forward, but there's a little bit of belief missing, so you do all you can subconsciously to stop yourself moving forwards. But what we're going to do is once you've checked this, if it involves a constant fear or exposure or to rejection, then it's likely that you are ready to take some of the steps to fix what could be imposter syndrome. But we're going to go through a few steps first just to help with that. Okay. So, as I said, why are we covering this? Really importantly, because for me, and this is something just from my own experience, over the last 6 months or so, I have seen more people come forward starting to think that this is something that's affecting them. Now, this has been personal trainers, this has been people that have got their own businesses, this has been people that are looking to develop their careers or have developed their careers. And at times it has actually been correct. Their feeling has been right, and we've been able to work on correct and help them move forward. However, there are times it could be more of a loss of confidence, a fear of failure, or even some kind of other limiting belief, or even perhaps just a story that people have told themselves to excuse a feeling of being stuck or procrastination. So it's kind of like adding a label to it. And it's one of those things at times you sometimes, and you have to work on this with yourself, but also when I'm working with people, is it imposter syndrome, or is it you've heard about it, so all of a sudden it manifests as a story for you and it puts barriers up or stops you moving forward or creates that self-sabotage we talked about earlier. So one of the first things we're going to do is really check in and see how you're feeling, what you're feeling, so we can put some fixes in place for either that imposter syndrome or something else that could be causing those feelings. Yeah, makes sense? Good. Okay. So let me give you another definition. Imposter syndrome is the persistent inability to believe that one's or your own success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of your own efforts or skills. So if you break it down, you or we don't believe in ourselves, and it just feels like luck, and we don't deserve what we've got. Which I said earlier, it couldn't be further from the truth. But there are ways we need to kind of examine things to be able to move forward to get this, I guess, out of your system and looking towards other things or different mindsets. Okay. Now, as a coach or a trainer, you may be or you may have experienced this. And it's very often what can happen is we're giving help out and advice, and perhaps we're still working on a goal of our own, or there's an improvement we're making on ourselves. So you may start to think or feel like, well, while I'm working on this, while I'm working on myself and I'm still a work in progress, who am I to help or advise people to reach their goals if I'm still working towards mine? Now, what can happen with this is these feelings can kind of wash over all the great things that you've done or you're currently doing. And it means you start to question your own abilities to create outcomes and get results for the people that you want to help, i.e. your clients or your friends or family, or whoever you're actually working with. Now, what we're going to do to begin with today is looking at ways of navigating away from these feelings and get to a point where you feel comfortable in your own skin and confident that you're able to give the best of yourself to the people you want to work with, and importantly, the ones who want to work with you. And that's something to really bear in mind as we go through this. So we're going to get started by asking a few questions to help start moving past and getting over imposter syndrome. So let's start with the first question to ask yourself. So the first thing is, why do I feel like an imposter? Very often when people have the feeling this is something they're suffering from, they don't often ask this first and really important question. But here's the reason why it is so important. Now, you usually feel like an imposter when you associate yourself to a particular outcome. You think that something makes you an imposter and something doesn't make you an imposter. Okay, so it can very much be you reach your best level of health, so you can talk about health, okay? Or when you reach your physique goals or your ideal weight, whatever it's to be, then you can share how to get the body and the well-being that you want, if that makes sense. That's why I'm saying imposter syndrome is very much you associate yourself to a particular outcome. You think something makes you an imposter and something doesn't make you an imposter. So I'm an imposter because I'm working towards a goal. I'm not an imposter because I've achieved my goal. Make sense? But here's the thing that kind of leads on with this. This is about being outcome orientated. And this is almost like thinking about some of the life lessons that we go through. Life is very much about taking lots of baby steps. And our lives are a lot more process orientated and about learning, which is all part of our journey of discovery. And when you no longer get stuck on the idea of just an outcome, you can really enjoy being there and enjoying the journey for you and your clients that you're both on. And what happens is you start to become more present. And what starts happening is it changes your belief to focus on the process and not the outcome. It's to get in there. We love to get a result. We love to see an outcome. But a lot of the time, the fun and the pleasure comes from the getting there. And sometimes it's about accepting that. Yeah? Does that make sense? Okay. So here's the second question to ask yourself. When you're thinking about imposter syndrome, is it about me or is it about them? So let me break that down for you. This is such a key question to get past imposter syndrome because it disassociates you from what you feel to what you're creating. So here's what is important to take from this. Your clients are only focused on their journey and their challenges. And in the nicest possible way, they are not interested in yours. And they probably won't even notice or mind if you do have imposter syndrome or you're working through it, okay? Now, the important thing to focus on is, can you help them? Now, the reason you probably got into personal training is because you believe you can, and you went through all the hard work and the study and the understanding and the learning and development so you could do that. Now, all your client cares is, do you care for them? Can you get them to where you want to be with your help and support? As I said, if you look at things as a process rather than an outcome, this can be a lot more simpler to do. So by asking yourself the question, again, you disassociate yourself from the feelings, from the outcomes that you create. Okay, it's about the process again. Now, when you do this, you can focus on outcome, and you can focus on outcome for your client, which they can achieve from working with you. Okay. Now, this then starts to add more weight to the first question. We looked at where we focus on the process. So the more you do this, the more you start to see yourself as the channel or the passage to help people get to where they want to go. You're making the difference in their life. Okay. So what happens is your imposter syndrome starts to slide away because now you are leaning towards the outcome you create, not who you think you are. Hope that makes sense. Yeah. And what goes with this, and is that I really want you to take away from the second question is, can we disassociate you from the outcomes you create? If we can do this, then we can find a way to bypass the imposter syndrome and understand your purpose of being a coach or a trainer. Okay. So what we're going to look at is the next thing, the third question. What is the purpose of you being a trainer? What is the purpose of you being a coach? What is the purpose of you trying to help people create their well-being goals or make their well-being goals? Now, when you ask this, you question your role as a coach. Now, you may start to think, what is my role? Am I their guru? Am I their teacher? It's very likely, I'm sure you will find yourself saying no. But when you question your role, you will see your responsibility clearly. And what will start to come out of this, and where you'll get to, is your responsibility, or my responsibility, if you think of yourself, is to be like a passenger on the same train journey as your client. I'm someone who's helping them out along the way. You are right by them, making the journey better for them, because you know they won't get the results they're after without your help and support. So you're joining them on that journey, but you are making it more enjoyable. You're making it more pleasurable. You're making it easier for them to get there through your help and support, etc. Okay. Now, again, why does this become so important? Here's what happens. You're disassociating all of the tension you bring on yourself, and understand that we are not the be all and end all in somebody's life. You remove any false perception you may have created for yourself about being a guru or being everything to that person. So you can deflate, forgive me, the ego that you can sometimes create and you put up on a pedestal, and it creates all those expectations of yourself. And that's what can happen sometimes. And the idea is, I'm helping you along the way. So here's the difference. No ego, no imposter syndrome. So again, can you check yourself and think, have you created an egotistic vision of yourself that has made you feel like an imposter, and it doesn't need to be there? Okay. So here's the thing. If you have answered the questions, here's the next thing to do. It's time to double check some of those symptoms before we hit the solutions. Okay. Now, some of the symptoms we're going to go through, we're going to list them now, but we're going to go through them in a little bit more detail. Symptoms of imposter syndrome include feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt, exhibiting perfectionist tendencies, avoiding responsibility, fearing judgment and discovery, and denying your own success. Now, if some of these points cover what you're feeling, you'll be pleased to hear that recognizing that you have imposter syndrome is often the hardest part, but it's also the first step to overcoming it. Okay, so we're going to just examine this a little bit further now. So here's the thing: feeling inadequate and doubting yourself. Okay, now what it can do is, what it can show itself is an extreme lack of confidence. You experience success and you start thinking, I got lucky, or I don't deserve this. So from time to time, people suffer with an element of lack of self-confidence. With imposter syndrome, this is a constant and severe feeling. Okay, so we all go through it now and again, where you think, do I deserve this? Did I just get lucky? And in the main, people and individuals will get by it. But when this is something that actually is constant, you can't get past it, and it almost hurts, then that is a big tick towards imposter syndrome. Yeah. Okay. So it's not just having it a bit, it's just having it all the time. Okay. The next thing is showing perfectionist tendencies. And there are elements of this, again, that you sometimes experience now and again. But here's the thing. Again, many people who experience imposter syndrome are perfectionists. Okay. Now, what can happen is you're setting yourself unreasonably high goals and then feel shame or disappointment or letdown when in your mind you fail. Now, this means you're not satisfied with your achievements and you tend to focus on your mistakes and failures only. But don't remember, and I think we've covered this in an earlier setting where we talked about failure being part of a journey towards success. But when you get to a point where it is severe and it stops you moving forward, then it becomes very kind of limiting in what you're able to do. And when those perfectionist tendencies become so severe and so strong that you don't want to try anything for the the worry of not getting it right or not getting it perfectly, then you've got a barrier. And it's something you need to work on and improve. Otherwise, you're going to probably stay in an area where you don't need to be. Okay. This is a real big one to think about, denying your own accomplishments and success. Now, what can happen is if you are suffering here, you are likely downplaying your achievements a lot. Okay. Now, often you might find yourself caught up in negative self-talk, that little inner coach that we talked about before, not being kind. And it makes you feel like you don't deserve your success. And you pass your success off, oh, that was easy, or even just dismissive of any positive feedback. Oh, it was nothing. Um, and that can become very difficult because you just basically don't feel any joy in what you're doing. You're just passing it off. So again, why are you doing this? Again, it's a mindset and it's something that you can get past. But just watch out. If this is something that you're doing all the time, we all, every now and again, we brush stuff off. But when this is something you're doing constantly, then it's an area that you can improve and work on again, okay? So here's some of the starting points. So if you feel, and we've been through some of the symptoms here, if you feel these are areas that you're caught up in right now, the great news is there are lots of different things we can do to beat imposter syndrome. Now, we're going to look over a few and then get you into some depth on how they'll help you. So again, here's a few things that we're going to talk about as we go through. One, the first step is going to be acknowledging your feelings. We'll go into more depth in just a second. Something else, which is always a good thing to do, is to talk to others. Not be afraid to share that. Then look at planning in terms of developing a quick response, okay? Then we'll look at overcoming perfectionism and, of course, then really importantly, owning your own success. And I had this with someone only today that wouldn't take any credit for some of the brilliant stuff they've been doing, but for everything that wasn't quite right in their mind, it was all their fault. So it's really important to balance the two, and we'll come to that one towards the end. But let's go through these bits one by one. So first thing to look at, acknowledge your feelings. When you experience self-doubt or inadequacy, pen, paper, tablet, laptop, I don't mind, but make a note of it, write it down and see if you can be specific about why you're feeling like this. Very often, seeing your thoughts written down or in front of you enables you to understand how harmful they are and how they hold you back. Now, this will enable you to challenge them. This is a really good step to complete. Now, remember, feelings are important, but equally remind yourself they do not have to reflect your reality. Feeling unqualified doesn't mean that you are. Make sense? So get those points down, look at them, challenge them. As it says, feelings are important, but they don't have to reflect your reality. Yeah? Okay. Let's have a look at the next step to keep you working. Talking to others. Now, you are surrounded by other personal trainers. You are surrounded by mentors. You are surrounded by people that are there to help you be successful. Okay? Now, the thing that's surprising is how many friends or colleagues or mentors that you will be able to relate to how you feel. Maybe they've experienced it, maybe they've seen it in somebody else. But by talking to others, it gives you an opportunity to share how you're feeling, but listen to the people that you respect in your life to maybe bring you back and reassure you and let you know that what you're going through, number one, doesn't have to be that way, but number two, and importantly, it isn't correct about you. It's just a feeling that you've got, and it's something that you can challenge and move away for. Now, very often, this alone can demonstrate how your fears are unfounded, because people will give you feedback on how good you are, or what maybe you can do that will just help you feel better, or things to focus on. Again, taking action makes you feel better. So can you talk to someone there? And don't be afraid to do that. This is the next thing. Do you have or can you develop a quick response plan? Now, at times we all need tactics to deal with particularly stressful moments. Okay. So when that negative self-talk takes over, can you confront it by distancing yourself from the emotional power of that voice, that coach in your head? This is a really good thing to do, but think in the third person. Instead of thinking, why do I do that? Or why do I feel this way? Think about, why did they do that? What it does is that it starts to distance yourself, but it will help you gain a more objective perspective of the situation. Okay. So you're looking at it as an observer And when you look at things as an observer, then you're more likely to challenge things than accept them. And again, that can very quickly start to make you feel better and make a difference. Next thing to think about, can you overcome any perfectionist habits that you have or you put yourself through? So focus on some bigger picture plans. Setting yourself challenges that are achievable, goals that you can get towards, while reminding yourself that mistakes are part of life and create opportunities to learn and improve. I know we talked about this before, but very often what happens is we are so afraid of failure and not getting it perfect that we won't challenge ourselves to do things. So what little steps can you take? And embrace the journey. If things don't go quite to plan, celebrate. Brilliant. What did I learn from that? How can I use it again? As I said, what that does is if you're setting yourself challenging but achievable little goals to work towards, it allows you to make mistakes and it allows you to improve. Okay. Perfectionism sometimes can be high standards that I'm not going to say we can't achieve, but certainly don't do us any favors. So enjoy the fact that maybe you didn't get it right and look at how you can improve. It makes such a difference, I promise you. And this is one of the most important ones. As I said, I was speaking to somebody earlier today who, for all the wonderful things that were going on, they wouldn't stop and congratulate themselves or see the great things they'd done. But for everything they felt that wasn't going quite right, that wasn't giving them what they wanted, it was all their fault. There was nobody else involved. There was no one else who could take credit. It was them. So own your success. Now, people with imposter syndrome find it hard to accept praise. Okay. When things go well, they attribute their success to external factors like this gentleman I was talking to today. But when things go wrong, they tend to shoulder everything. It's all their fault. There's no one else involved. Now, if this is a two-way street, if you believe that your life is shaped by your own actions, the choices and decisions that you make, you can take responsibility for your achievements as well as what you feel are your shortcomings. So when you meet a goal next time, when you get some praise, when you complete a project, when you take on a new qualification and so on, acknowledge what your skill and talent has done to make that happen. There'll be so much along the way. And it feels so good to actually allow yourself to enjoy that moment and not take that success away from yourself. So always find the time to stop and celebrate no matter what. Okay, please promise me that. So just to kind of bring this to a conclusion, the things we talked about today in terms of improvement and change and so on, this can take time. There's people I'm working with right now that are improving, but still have these feelings that come through and manifest themselves now and again. So here's the thing I want you to know. It's okay to still feel like an imposter, even after some of the things we've started working on today. But what you will find is you have the tools to work through this and come out the other end exactly where you need to be and to stop doubting yourself, okay? Focus on the points we discussed today. Measure how you feel regularly in terms of how am I feeling, what am I feeling, why am I feeling it, and keep those thoughts in check. So if you're telling yourself you don't deserve it, or you're telling yourself you're not good enough, or you're telling yourself that, that success wasn't down to me, I got lucky, stop for a moment, reassess, look at all the things you've done in the steps along the journey. And I promise you, you will find all the good things that you've done. And very quickly, you'll start to see you deserve every bit of good and praise that you get. Okay. So as always, thank you so much for your time. If you've got any further questions on this topic, I would love to hear from you. You are welcome to email me, keith@yoursuccesssolutions.com. You can visit my website if you wish and message me there as well. But for today, thank you so much for your time and all the best. Take care and good luck with moving forward.